We're taking a look at the biggest and baddest Marvel baddies to find out what's really driving them in their quest for world domination. From genocidal warlords to high-tech thieves, here's what these MCU villains can't live without. Loki is certainly a menace capable of great destruction. He invited killer frost giants to Thor's coronation. He teamed up with the Chitauri, stole the Space Stone, and used the Mind Stone to wreak havoc on New York City. And at any given moment, there's a good chance he'll try to stab you in the back when you're not looking. But even when he impersonated Odin and ruled Asgard for a while, Loki wasn't really interested in elaborate evil schemes. Not really. He mostly just liked a really good prank. Loki is driven by chaos, in addition to the whole, wanting to be king thing.
All this because Loki desires a throne.
It is my birthright.
Your birthright was today!
He just can't help himself, even when he sometimes tries to do the right thing. On Sakaar, Loki was more than happy to serve the Grand Master in Thor Ragnarok, and he cheered when the Hulk smacked him around in the arena. He later tried to betray Thor when they were teaming up, but eventually the God of Mischief did the right thing and helped defeat Hela in Asgard. But that just speaks to the guy's unpredictability. Even when going up against Thanos, Loki offered him his fealty and then tried to stab him. He got killed for his audacity, as Thanos isn't one who really cares much for jokes. Happily, thanks to the events of Avengers Endgame, there's a version of Loki running around in time undoubtedly causing all sorts of trouble. Johann Schmidt, the Red Skull, was one of Hitler's right-hand men during World War II, as depicted in Captain America: The First Avenger. He formed his own offshoot of the Nazi SS called Hydra, and was obsessed by Dr. Abraham Erskine's super soldier serum. Consumed with becoming the superior man so that he could rightfully wield the Tesseract, Schmidt forced Erskine to give him the formula. The earlier version of the serum, without the addition of the crucial Vita rays, gave Schmidt all of the power he desired, but it also had a hideous side effect. It disfigured his face, literally turning him into, a Red Skull. It didn't matter much to Schmidt, who didn't care about the superficial Aryan ideal. He just wanted to make himself into something new, so he could use the power of the Norse gods via the Tesseract. That's why the existence of his American opposite, Captain America, enraged him, and defeating Cap was imperative to prove his superiority. Unfortunately for old Schmidt, when he accidentally touched the Tesseract with his bare hands, it activated and sent him halfway across the universe through a wormhole. The Tesseract, also known as the Space Stone, sent him to Vormir to be the wispy guardian of the Soul Stone. So much for the superior man. Ultron was initially designed by Tony Stark in Avengers: Age of Ultron as a suit of armor for the world. Tony wanted the AI to be a defense system to protect the Earth against aliens and interdimensional menaces, but he inadvertently gave it true sentience, and more than a touch of his megalomaniacal personality, with the aid of the Mind Stone, which proves that using the Infinity Stones for any reason is just a certified bad idea. Upon reviewing the carnage surrounding the Avengers and the damage humanity inflicts on itself in general, Ultron immediately came to the conclusion that the best way to protect the world was to destroy, everybody. The thing is, in his twisted mind, he interpreted this idea as, just take a gander.
Is that why you've come? To end the Avengers?
I've come to save the world. But also,
Being an advanced being, he attempted his mission in the most efficient way he could think of, trying to recreate the extinction-level event that wiped out the dinosaurs by ripping up a huge section of Sokovia and smashing it into the ground like a meteor. No more humans. Ultron wanted a brand new Earth built in his own image, creating a machine age founded on his own twisted vision of natural selection. To him, humanity was just a bad idea that needed to be wiped out, in favor of better forms of life like himself. He never did quite understand how much of his personality was driven by Tony Stark's own ambitions, albeit warped almost beyond recognition. Of all the MCU villains, none were quite as obsessed with their goals as Helmut Zemo. A Sokovian colonel and leader of a covert hit squad, Zemo lived a happy life with his wife and Avengers-obsessed son Carl. Then Ultron came along and killed thousands of Sokovians, including Zemo's wife, son, and father. As a result, Zemo blamed the Avengers for not caring about the lives of innocents, and he vowed to destroy them. Zemo knew he couldn't kill the Avengers himself, but he studied them, learned their secrets, and manipulated them into almost destroying each other, as seen in Captain America: Civil War. He framed Bucky Barnes for the death of T'Chaka, the Black Panther's father. Then, using Bucky as a pawn, he manipulated Captain America and Iron Man into a confrontation that nearly killed them both, leaving the Avengers fractured for years. Zemo is unique because his life was basically over. The only thing he thought about after the murder of his family was this idea of obtaining some kind of justice for their senseless deaths. He had no other goals, and justice wasn't even something he enjoyed. He simply felt it was his duty to destroy the Avengers in the name of his family. In fact, he was about to kill himself listening to a voicemail from his wife one last time, before Black Panther stopped him and captured him. As an ancient godlike celestial, Ego the living planet flickered into existence and slowly coalesced a planet around himself. Desperately lonely, he created a humanoid form and used that to travel around the universe. Soon after, he decided to terraform every planet he visited into an extension of himself, as part of a plan he called the Expansion. His universal legacy would literally be himself on every planet. Everything would be him, a perfect plan for a narcissistic god.
Covering all that exists until everything is me.
Of course, he needed a power boost in order to make it work, which is why he impregnated countless women of numerous species. He hired Yondu to bring their children to him so he could see if they inherited his powers. None of them did, so he simply killed them. Then he finally found Peter Quill and brought him to his world, as seen in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Ego fooled Quill with what seemed to be the fatherly love Quill had always wanted, but Ego was simply after his son's power to make the expansion work. Fortunately, Quill's friends helped him fight back, and they destroyed Ego's inner core, saving the universe and ending Ego's plan for a long-lasting legacy, and his life. If Ego could have thought of anything beyond his own existence, he'd still be alive. The Grand Master is one of the oldest beings in the universe, with only his brother the Collector being his equal. Like the Collector, the Grand Master has a very specific obsession. He loves to be entertained. Upon arriving on the planet Sakaar, the Grand Master established himself as the ruler of this junction of wormholes that brought stragglers and lost souls to him on a constant basis. He quickly had the idea of pitting the new arrivals against each other in a gladiatorial combat. Based on the statues of former champions, the Grand Master at one point captured the likes of Beta Ray Bill, the Man-Thing, the Bi-Beast, and Ares. Of course, the Hulk was his favorite champion, entertaining him endlessly until Thor came along to spoil all of his fun. Still, the lives of others were far less important than his own good time. When you're that old, it's easy to get bored. Of course, with his obedience disc, melt stick, and loyal warriors, it was hard to protest when he rigged the games in his own favor. Thankfully for the people of Sakaar, Thor helped lead a revolt against the Grand Master, resulting in a confrontation with a very angry populace. Hey, at least he won't be bored while his ex-subjects try to tear him apart.
This revolution has been a huge success. Yay us. Pat on the back. Pat on the back. Come on. No?
Eric Killmonger Stevens was the son of N'Jobu, the brother of King T'Chaka of Wakanda. N'Jobu was sent to America as an undercover observer, and he learned that black people in America were, quote, overly policed and incarcerated and subjected to poverty and misery. So he planned to fight back by stealing Wakanda's vibranium and leading a worldwide revolt. When T'Chaka learned of his plans, he confronted N'Jobu, and soon after, the Wakandan prince was dead. T'Chaka then left N'Jobu's corpse behind in America, as well as his son Eric. In other words, the king had abandoned his nephew. Moments later, Eric found his dad's lifeless body and obsessively vowed to take what was his, not only for himself, but for all the world's black people. Killmonger wanted reparations for what he had lost, his father, his childhood, and justice for his people.
We're gonna send vibranium weapons out to our war dogs. They'll arm oppressed people all over the world, so they can finally rise up and kill those in power.
So he joined the Navy SEALs and became a deadly marksman, earning the Killmonger nickname. And he acquired the skills and training to kill his cousin, the new King T'Challa. Killmonger desired for Wakanda to stop hiding and to take its true role as leader, liberator, and subjugator. And he planned on claiming the throne by killing T'Challa in ritual combat. Of course, the Black Panther eventually took back control of his crown and defeated Killmonger, but he also heeded his cousin's lessons and peacefully opened Wakanda up to the world.
In times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
Thanos, the architect of so much destruction, simply wanted balance. Growing up on Titan, he quickly realized that his home was like most planets, with, quote, too many mouths to feed and not enough to go around. Thus, he proposed an idea. If they'd kill off half the population at random, they'd, in all likelihood, save the other half. Makes sense on paper, right? Well, he ended up being banished from Titan as a result of his outrageous idea, which worked out for him at least. It turns out that he was proven right. The population of Titan died out. Thanos then took his quest across the universe, building a host of fanatically devoted followers who conquered and obliterated half of the population on countless worlds. But for Thanos, this method was too slow, so he sought out the Infinity Stones. He was so certain of his radical objective that he planned to wipe out half of all life in the universe with a single snap of his fingers.
With all 6 stones, I could simply snap my fingers. They would all cease to exist. I call that mercy.
As seen in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos did just this. In his mind, he was doing what needed to be done. To do any less would be a failure of will, one that put the entire universe in peril. Of course, his single-minded obsession didn't concern itself with what happened after, nor did it otherwise try to improve any lives. Quentin Beck was a former engineer for Stark Industries who developed sophisticated hologram technology. Tony Stark took his tech, gave it a silly acronym, Binary Augmented Retroframing, or BARF, and used it for his own therapeutic purposes. When Beck complained, Stark fired him, partly because he was unstable. Stark wasn't wrong, but it was still a pretty crappy thing to do. Beck and many other disgruntled Stark employees bided their time and formed a plan for revenge. As seen in Spider-Man Far From Home, it wasn't just revenge on Stark personally, as he died stopping Thanos. It was revenge on Stark's legacy. Beck learned that Stark had left Peter Parker a pair of sunglasses that controlled Edith, a global satellite and computer hacking system that controlled a huge weapons network. Beck wanted those glasses so that he could be the biggest, baddest, best hero of them all, better than Iron Man. And Beck almost achieved his dream, as he manipulated Peter into handing over the glasses through a campaign of smoke and mirrors, or rather drones and holograms. Eventually, Peter figured out Beck's plan, and wouldn't rest until he rectified his error. As a result, Spider-Man utterly defeated Mysterio, but as he was dying, the villain got his revenge on Peter too. He framed him for the attacks on London and then revealed his secret identity to the world, making Peter a fugitive.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker. What the?
Talk about being one bitter baddie. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.